It's Monday night and you're looking to make some cash. Well, I've spent about 4 hours researching this slate and identified some key plays. These are the guys you must have for Monday night. Beginning with $8,200 Jacoby Myers, who is the best play on the slate. You see, according to Pro Football Focus, Myers has the 6th best matchup on the entire week amongst wide receivers. He'll be facing the Bears defense that overall ranks 30th in the NFL right now, but his individual matchup in the slot is the thing to key in on. Myers will face the slot cornerback of the Bears in Kyler Gordon, who has allowed the third most yards per cover out, 2.27 this year, meaning a lot of easy yards are coming for Jacoby. And now Myers is averaging 8 targets per game this year, and it doesn't matter who his quarterback is for this game, he's going to produce. Because he's played 2 games now with both Mac Jones and the rookie Bailey Zappi, and in those games, 2 games with Mac Jones, nearly 15 fantasy points per game, and with Bailey Zappi, over 17 fantasy points per game. No matter who the quarterback is, this slot wide receiver is productive. And I feel confident enough to take him over 11.5 fantasy points on PrizePicks. I have him projected for nearly 14 points here, and if you want to get a free bet up to $100, use the link in the description below to prizepicks.com and you take this lovely bet right here. That free bet is up to $100. You can learn more with the link in the description. Now, next up, let's talk about my favorite pay-up option of the 4 guys above $9,000. I'll go with the Bears quarterback Justin Fields, who is $10,400. Now, Fields is going to have to face the Patriots pass rush that ranks 20th in the NFL, and this is going to help him because his offensive line is not good. For the second straight year, they stink, and the Bears rank 27th in pass protection, so not facing a great defensive line is going to help Fields find more time to throw. And Fields is starting to get comfortable here. Over his last 4 fantasy games, we've seen the production overall increase every single week, but not only the production to when he was a top 8 quarterback last week alone, his pass attempts in this column right here have increased 17, 22, 21, and now 27 the last time out. He's throwing over 23 times per game the last 3 weeks compared to just 15 times per game the first 3 weeks. Now, 23 times per game still ranks dead last in the NFL, but it's better than 15, and with the rushing upside, it makes him an appealing play on this slate. And now Fields is expensive and will likely play another expensive play on this slate, so we need to start to find some value. Let's talk about $3,000 Kendrick Bourne. We're going to have to track the injury news here because Nelson Agholor and Kendrick Bourne, they've been limited in practice this week. Nelson Agholor actually has missed some practices, so track this news. Bourne left last week's game after 4 snaps with a toe injury, but if he does play and suits up here, he's going to operate as the wide receiver 3. But if both him and Agholor play, it's going to be a messy situation where 5 wide receivers are involved, so just avoid these guys. Now, there's also a chance both of these guys miss, whether for injury or because they're likely on the trade block as well, and that would make $6,600 Tyquan Thornton, the rookie, become more in play at that point. You see, once Thornton ended up taking over last week when Kendrick Bourne went out, he played over 50% of the snaps, ran 22 routes, which is pretty good. He was the wide receiver 3 in this game, and he saw 8 touches leading to 2 touchdowns over 20 fantasy points. And he's likely going to have some sort of role either way because he's by far one of the fastest players not only on this team but in the entire NFL and definitely on this Patriots offense. But the issue is if Nelson Agholor and or Kendrick Bourne play, he's just too expensive at $6,600 to split the wide receiver 3 role. All right, now let's talk about some running backs. And we'll look at the Bears backfield here where we can start with David Montgomery, who's $10,600, and based on the recent quotes coming out of Bears camp, this does not look good for his price tag. And what doesn't look good exactly is his overall role. Eberflus, his head coach, said that they're going to ride the hot hand approach moving forward. Now, this isn't good because Montgomery's basically been seeing like 70% of the snaps and workload so far. A hot hand approach might mean now 50-50. And he's been actually good. He's averaging 5 yards per touch, top 25 in the NFL. He's breaking tackles at a well above average rate, top 12 in the NFL, and this includes games where he's missed. He's actually on a per touch basis breaking tackles at a top 5 rate. But the issue becomes the guy behind him in this backfield has had a hot hand all year long, and now he's going to take snaps and touches away from Montgomery, who's really expensive. And that man's name is second-year player Khalil Herbert, who at $5,400, almost half the price basically as David Montgomery, he is the guy that I want to play here out of this backfield if I'm choosing, because he currently ranks 3rd in the NFL on yards per touch. He's been absolutely dynamic, arguably the best running back on a per touch basis in the league. It's like him and DeAndre Swift. And now he'll have a beneficial matchup against the Patriots number 19 run defense. He's a lot cheaper than Montgomery. I'll prefer Herbert, who might honestly just be seeing a 50-50 role heading into this game. And because of this news on a hot hand approach and Herbert in general being really good all year long, I'm taking Montgomery under 12.5 fantasy points. I have him projected for like 10 points and change here. Again, a free bet up to $100 with the link in the description. Just use the code SAL22, SAL22 on prizepicks.com. You get that free bet. And hey, if you enjoy this content, be sure to subscribe for more. All right, now we start to get into some really interesting plays on this slate. And it begins with the Patriots tight end Hunter Henry at $5,000 flat, who is an appealing play. Now, Jonnu Smith has missed the last couple of games, and Henry's usage has increased without his running mate at the tight end position. And you can see it right here. He was basically playing 79, 40%, and 70% of the snaps. Let's call it somewhere around 75% of the snaps the first 3 weeks. And then since Jonnu Smith has missed the last 3 weeks, he's basically pushing 85 to 95% of the snaps snaps each week. And this has led to increased usage, a season high 7 targets last week alone and 16 fantasy points. Now the issue is Jonnu Smith is trending to play after practicing in full on Friday, and now this is going to make Hunter Henry not as appealing of a play. However, he is still in play because he's only $5,000 and he has touchdown upside. You see, Henry is top 10 amongst all tight ends with 5 red zone targets this year. He just had a touchdown last week and they look his way in the red zone. They actually have plays designed for him, keeping him in play at just 5K. Now the next player on this list will be whoever ends up starting. At this recording, it's questionable right now. Mac Jones, he was limited in practice. Whoever ends up starting for the Patriots. If it's Mac Jones at $9,800 or if it's the rookie Bailey Zappi. Either way, I'll be interested because they'll be going up against the Bears' dead last ranked pass rush on defense, giving them a lot more time to throw. And whoever's back there this week will enjoy the #1 pass blocking advantage on the week, positive 38%. 38% above the NFL average this week for the New England quarterbacks. So play the New England quarterbacks. Honestly, playing both quarterbacks on the slate might end up being the move. It'll depend on this next situation. And that's the New England backfield, where Ramondre Stevenson, yeah, I want to play him if Damian Harris doesn't play, but Damian Harris has been practicing in full this week with a hamstring injury, and he's trending to play. And if that's the case, it's really difficult to play Ramondre because Ramondre only averages 9.9 points per game when Harris is active, as opposed to 19.5 when Harris is out. So here's a simple formula. If Harris is in and he's not going to be limited with an injury, you just don't play Ramondre. But if Harris is out, you prioritize Ramondre over everybody, including Justin Fields. And now specifically for Damian Harris at his price point in the 8K range, I definitely prefer Jacoby Myers, but let's not kid ourselves. In his last 3 healthy games, he's averaging over 13 points in each of those games and nearly 15 plus opportunities. So similar to the Bears backfield, if all these running backs are going to be healthy in New England, I'll actually take the cheaper one in Damian Harris. I'll prioritize him more than Ramondre. Now this next guy here is going to be a fair price point, $7,400 Darnell Mooney. He's an 8-point underdog, meaning his team hopefully for the first time this year will throw 30 times. And if that happens, it's going to help him a lot because in their last game when they threw 27 times, he saw 12 targets. So the more volume, the better here for Darnell Mooney, the clear #1 receiver for Justin Fields. He's now seen 5 or more targets in 4 straight games. Now the issue is he has a tough matchup against the Patriots' top 10 secondary and their #1 graded cornerback in the entire NFL in Jack Jones. Now that said, I'm expecting somewhat lower ownership here on him, and he's a very fair price point, and then the price range kind of drops off because if you don't end up playing Darnell Mooney, it gets pretty gross pretty quick. You have Devontae Parker, who's only averaging 2 receptions per game and just 8 targets over the last 3 games, 1 red zone target all season long. That's not good. We already talked about Tyquan Thornton being expensive and Nelson Aguilar dealing with injury. After that, you're already down pretty quickly to an expensive Patriots defense and then some fringe players. So right now, a really cheap quality play is Darnell Mooney. And Mooney is going to be one of the better leverage plays on this slate. Leverage means they are lower owned than they should be, and you can see ownership, which is by far a key, one of the 2 biggest things you need to know when you're playing DFS, otherwise don't play. You can see it in the blueprint on Patreon down below. The blueprint is a 5-step system to help you win more every single week in DFS. It's what I use, and now I'm sharing it with other people. Go ahead and get it down below. And honestly, the more you scroll down from Devontae Parker's price point, it's not great. Khalil Herbert, okay, he's a decent play. Hunter Henry, okay, he's a decent play. None of these guys are stand-up plays. Cole Kmet at $4,800, I don't really want him. He's a touchdown or bust type player. He's only averaging 1.7 receptions per game. If they throw a little bit more, that'll help him, but he's only running 16 routes per game. He only has right now 1 red zone target on the season. Again, as 8-point underdogs, if they end up throwing more in this game, expect a little bit better usage out of Cole Kmet at just $4,800, but for a similar price point, I'll just take Hunter Henry, who I know has that role and I know is going to run more routes. And then another guy to point out here, you might be saying, but Sal, Dante Pettis, he's our guy. He just popped off last week. Yeah, he popped off last week, but it's nowhere near sustainable because Dante Pettis, he ends up seeing 7 targets, but he only runs 16 routes. And his normal role is running 14 routes. So his normal role when he runs 14 routes, he sees about 2 targets per game. He now runs 16 routes and sees 7 targets. That's not sustainable. He's not going to see a 50% target rate. The NFL average for a quality player is somewhere around 15-16%. And at this point in his career, and really just a 10-game stretch, he was above average in the NFL. He's only running 13 routes a game. Even if he runs 15 in this, you can expect at most 3 targets. It's not going to get it done for now an increased price point of Dante Pettis. And then we get down to the kickers and defenses, and the Patriots are pretty expensive. Their defense is strongly in play, though, considering just a 15-point total for the Bears. But then the kickers are going to have to be in play, and the Bears defense. At that point, though, you're not dealing with much down here. I don't want little Jordan Humphrey, who's going to run 1 or 2 routes. I don't want Velus Jones, who's going to run 5 routes, or Jonnu Smith off of injury. Not going to be all that involved in the receiving game, more of a blocker. This is not the most entertaining slate. It's kind of a quarterbacks, try and fill in the rest, kickers and defenses, which makes it a lot more entertaining to take props on this slate, some of the ones we've talked about here, and I'll post more on Twitter on Monday. And again, you get those props with a free bet up to $100 when you use the code SAL22 on PrizePicks in the link in the description below. Use it or lose it. Not now, but right now. Best of luck on this slate, and if you're not already subscribed, I appreciate if you hit the subscribe button.